Hey, remember the IMDb Bottom 100? You know, the infamous list on the Internet Movie Database that exists as a polar opposite to the top 250? It's still a thing, but its reputation as an arbiter of film quality has certainly gone down over time. Heck, it's not even called the Bottom 100 anymore. It's the lowest rated movies. Anyway, I'm an old man yelling at clouds, and today I'd like to delve into a few films from the IMDb Bottom 100 and answer the question of whether or not there's gold in them there hills. Now, a cursory glance will have you noticing a few titles right off the bat. There's Disaster Movie at number 1, well deserved, while further down are more current offerings like the most recent War of the Worlds, Cats, and the Bruce Willis exploitation piece Cosmic Sin. You've also got the usual suspects in bad movie circles like The Room, From Justin to Kelly, Manos the Hands of Fate, and of course the Jon Voight classic Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. Now, there are several films that I definitely don't believe should be on this list, but one movie immediately springs to mind as not quite belonging. Currently at number 100 on the Bottom 100 with a star rating of 3.8 out of 10, it's Spice World. For those unfamiliar, this was the feature film musical extravaganza from 1997, starring the Spice Girls, who at the time were some of the biggest stars in the world. It's kinda hard to explain just how huge they were, but suffice it to say that just the previous year, their album Spice sold more than 23 million copies. They were a symbol of the 90s, a unique cultural phenomenon, so it made perfect sense that they would release a feature film to align with their follow-up album, also titled Spice World. Unfortunately, critics didn't take kindly to their feature film debut. Roger Ebert gave the film half a star and called it tepid and, quote, a series of arbitrary musical performances strung together with camp foolishness, while other critics pointed out that the Hard Day's Night style Week in the Life structure is a pale imitation of the Beatles film, of which Spice World lacked its wit and charm. However, I think a lot of this animosity is due to the girls' popularity at the time. The film itself is a heap of fun that, yes, does pretty overtly crib from the Beatles, but then that's part of the entertainment value. The Spice Girls at the time were such an insane British pop culture phenomenon that they were even referred to as the Fab Five, a clear reference, of course, to the Beatles. What makes Spice World work is its playful nature, and yes, Mr. Ebert, it's camp foolishness. You've got Richard O'Brien crawling out of a toilet like freaking Pennywise, for goodness sake. There's not really much of a plot in the traditional sense. The whole thing is just a collection of skits and interludes that include Richard E. Grant mugging the hell out of the camera, Roger Moore pontificating in a mysterious manner, a gaggle of male strippers, aliens, a creepy old house, and that's just in the first half. Also, George Wendt is there for some reason. On the downside, the Spice Girls are not quite as adept at acting as the Beatles, and that does at times blunt the film's satirical edge. They often wind up feeling like a monolith rather than individual characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing thanks to Richard E. Grant and several other wacky cast members who hold the whole thing together. Also, I love Alan Cumming, but his whole plot as a TV host attempting to follow the girls around is pretty lame. Otherwise, though, no complaints. I love Spice World. It's a hoot and a half that, sure, is flawed, but it attempts something high concept that manages to be at once campy, feminist, and loads of fun. Also, Roger Moore holds a little pig. I could go on forever about Spice World. It just rules. Let's move on. If we're going to discuss Bottom 100 movies that don't quite belong here, I'd be remiss to not bring up Batman and Robin, which is currently situated at number 85, also with a rating of 3.8. People hate this movie, thanks in no small part to Arnold Schwarzenegger's over-the-top portrayal of Mr. Freeze, the addition of copious bat booty shots, and of course that bat credit card.
Never leave the cave without it.
It is essentially a $125 million toy commercial, a big-budget, live-action cartoon. That's the obvious intention right from the opening battle against Mr. Freeze. And at that goal, the film absolutely succeeds. See, Much like Spice World, Batman and Robin is really just embracing camp. It's not some failed, dark and serious movie, but a successful live-action cartoon. When you look at it through that lens as a loving, high-budget homage to the campy Batman of the 60s, both the Adam West iteration and the Silver Age comics of the time, you start to see it as the well-intentioned, outlandish exercise in hyper-stylization that it is. Those 27 ice puns Mr. Freeze bandies about, perfectly calibrated to Joel Schumacher's vision.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Although, speaking of that vision, it's worth noting that there was serious studio interference with Batman and Robin. See, Warner Brothers wanted a more toyetic film, one that would sell more merch, basically. They pressured Schumacher into adding more gadgets and vehicles, which really does negatively affect the plot, which, yes, is very flimsy compared to Batman Forever. Add to that, a lot of the ideas do feel a bit half-baked, mostly in regard to Alicia Silverstone's Batgirl. However, I implore you Batman and Robin haters to take another gander at the film as the camp exercise that it really is. Once you can ignore the comic book inaccuracies and just sit back and turn off your brain, it really is a staggering achievement in audacious Hollywood filmmaking. Remember, this is a movie that, in its opening moments, Batman and Robin use the doors of a rocket ship as surfboards. It's bananas. Then, currently at number 64 with an average rating of 3.3, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. You might not have seen this one, but chances are you've heard of it, thanks largely to its stars Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, who play the final girl and villain respectively. Zellweger is fine. She's pretty much a stock survivor, complete with an incredible inability to detect when a situation is overtly sinister. It's McConaughey who really shines in his role as Vilmer, the resident psycho and ostensible leader of the film's mismatched clan of cannibalistic weirdos, who really just eat pizza. It's this performance that most critics hail as legitimately entertaining while dismissing the rest of the film, but I'd argue that it's so much more than just one incredible performance. Texas Chainsaw 4, aka Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is a legitimately good film. Okay, hear me out. TCM4 is certainly nowhere near the heights of the original. That one's a classic for a reason, and most of that is down to director Tobe Hooper and cinematographer Daniel Pearl. That film was co-written with Hooper by Kim Hinkle, who would go on to, well, basically just to be the guy who wrote the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. His one shot at being a director was with TCM4, which he also wrote. This was kinda his time to really put his stamp on the property, and buddy, you guessed it, that stamp was pure camp. Look, I know I sound like a broken record, but seriously, so many great films are ignored by the mainstream because audiences are put off by camp. They don't get it. The exaggerated nature of it all, the heightened reality that the characters live in, it just doesn't jive with a lot of folks, and that's what leads to these films being sent to the bottom 100. After all, it's a list based on user rating averages, and while that may be democratic and junk, it's not necessarily accurate to what the films really are. This fourth installment in the Texas Chainsaw franchise follows Zellweger's Jenny and her mismatched group of friends on prom night. After ditching the dance, these teens wind up in a car crash in the middle of the woods. There, they're helped by Vilmer, who is pretty quick to start killing off the teens. He's aided by the rest of his family, Darla, W.E., and of course, Leatherface, who is perhaps at his least intimidating in this film. He's a yelping, screaming, cross-dressing fashionista with several looks, including a sort of pretty woman get-up that doesn't quite match that awesome poster art. From there, things get weirder and weirder, culminating in a final chase that's equal parts what and the f***. Texas Chainsaw 4 is not quite as over the top as Spice World or Batman and Robin, but it does exist in a bizarre realm of outlandish performances and questionable logic, not to mention a third act twist involving the Illuminati, I'm not joking, the Illuminati, that really has to be experienced to be believed. It's a distinctly weird picture, from the often artificial stereotype performances to Matthew McConaughey's mechanical leg, which you'll be happy to know he does use to crush a character's head. Some of the film's camp is clearly so bad it's good, some of the acting is abysmal, and frankly the plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's all filtered through the singular, weird-as-hell vision of its writer-director. This is what makes it outsider art more than anything else. It's a film where you can't tell where the incompetence ends and the bizarre, intended to be that way satire begins. And that's what makes it so fascinating. So, is there gold in them there hills? I'd say so. In this case, all three are camp classics, but differing varieties. You've got your intentional meta camp in Spice World, your intentional stylistic camp in Batman and Robin, and with Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, you've got a sort of bizarre outsider art camp that strays more so into the so bad it's good camp classification. I don't know if any of that made any sense. Anyway, I'm all out of time for this video, but there are still so many movies to talk about from the IMDb Bottom 100, both past and present. Do you have any favorites you'd like for me to delve into? Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching ScreenRant.